Pretty excited to be here again and share some neat tips with you. Today I'm going to focus on applique, fusible applique. So I've got some really neat tips for you. I've got some ideas for you for how to be more organized with your fusible applique. Sometimes when you're working on a project, and I'm going to pan this, you can see this quilt behind me. There's a lot of pieces in there. So it can be a challenge when you're tracing and cutting, trying to keep that organized and not end up losing some pieces and have to do it all over again. So I've got some ideas for you. Okay, so I'm just going to take you through a few ideas here. So first off, I've actually had people wonder or be a little confused about how to actually transfer your templates to your fusible. And it's really simple. This is a piece of fusible web. You've got a paper side that's real smooth, and then you've got the glue side, which is a little on the rough. Feels a little rough. And here's your page of templates. So you're just going to take your fusible, lay it paper side up on top of your templates, and then all you're going to do is take a pencil and trace. Now I like to use a pencil. That way if I make a mistake I can erase it and fix it. Some people like to use a pen. It's totally up to you. So you just trace here. I'll just whip this up here real quick. And that's it. So now you've got your shape traced down there on the paper side and you're ready to cut it out and fuse it to your fabric. So another tip I have for you is, excuse my reach there, if you have several pieces that are going to be on the same fabric. So here's my other page of templates. I've got stems and leaves, and they're all going to be out of the same fabric. So what I did is I grouped them together. And because they're going to be of the same fabric, you can get them pretty close together and not worry about leaving a margin, because you're not going to cut them out individually. You're going to fuse them all to the same piece of fabric. So I've got my fabric here. I'm going to fuse this to the wrong side and then cut everything out. So that's just a little hint there to make it a little easier for you when you've got several pieces of the same color. Now when you fuse your fabric, you want to use a dry iron, a hot iron. I use it on a cotton setting. Make sure there's no steam on there. Okay. Now, when you're cutting out these pieces, to keep track of them, here's something that I've done. You know, I've got my background up here, and then I'm cutting out pieces. So to keep track of them, what I've done is I've categorized them. So over here I've got the pieces for the birdhouse. Over here I've got pieces for the animals. This one's got pieces for some mushrooms. So that way I'm not losing pieces. And when I want to work on a given piece, I can go right to it. I don't have to go hunting for it. So I like the sticky notes. Now you can also use, if you don't want to use containers, you could easily use baggies. Same idea. Just put the sticky note on the baggie, and then whatever parts go in there, you keep them in there. And that way you're not losing pieces, you know, because some of these pieces are little. You know, some of these pieces are itty bitty. You don't want to have to keep doing those pieces over and over again because they fell off the table and you can't find them. Okay, so now I need to heat up my iron. So what do you do? Let's say you've got a piece like this that has markings on it. This little critter here, the way I designed this pattern is that you're going to transfer the markings to the fabric. So how do you do that? Well, I'm going to show you an easy way to do that. First, I've got my little critters drawn out here. I'm going to fuse it to the back. And before I even cut it out, I'm going to darken the pieces, the lines that need to be transferred on this side. Okay, so let me iron that together real quick. Okay, so I've got that fused on here. So now, let me zoom in here a little bit so you can see a little better. So now I'm going to take, you could take an ink pen. I'm using a Pigma pen. And I am going to go back over these parts of the template that I want to transfer. I'm just tracing over it to darken it. And these are just the lines that are not going to be cut. When you cut this, you're going to cut out the shape, like this little guy I showed you. You're just going to cut around the outside. So the lines I'm darkening are the lines that are not being cut on. Okay, so I've got that darkened up. So now what I'm going to do is you can use a light box or a window. And because of space here, I'm using an impromptu. So I've got a little flashlight, putting a little plastic container over it. And now I'm going to turn this over the other way. And hopefully you can see that all right. Let me scoot this over a little bit. You can see the markings right through the fabric. So I'm going to take my Pigma pen and I'm going to trace again. Like I said, if you don't have a light box, you can put it up to the window. So now you can see on the fabric side, you can see those markings really well. So I would cut that out, peel off the paper. I would finish marking it, finish marking the legs. And even where I have it right now, you can see the markings through the fabric. So it makes it easy for you to transfer the markings. So that's how you get that little critter. All right, so next, peeling the paper. Now, something that you've just ironed, something like this, you would have to score it with a pin. So once you cut it out, you can take a pin and just, I'm not doing it all the way, but you would score it. You would drag it hard enough to make kind of a rip in the paper, but not in the fabric. And then you would peel that back and you'd have an edge to peel off. Now, the easier way to do it is to let these pieces cool completely. So I ironed this one yesterday. And if you let it cool completely, that paper comes right off, no problem. And that's really nice for some of these little pieces. They can be a little bit hard to get the paper off of, but comes right off as long as you let it cool completely. And then it's ready to go. Okay, so now what do you do when you have layers? So on this, I have a mushroom and a stem. They're supposed to overlap. How do you do that? You could put it on your background, put the bottom piece first on the background, like that, and then put this on top and fuse it in place. You could do that. That would be easy enough for 2 layers, but what if you got more than that? So here I've got a birdhouse, you've got the post, you've got a roof, you've got the house, you've got the entry to the birdhouse. Okay, so this is when an applique pressing sheet will come in really handy. So what's an applique pressing sheet? Well, let me move you over here and I will show you. One other thing I forgot to mention, when you're grouping similar items, like if you see this one, these little pieces fit in real nicely between the big pieces. You know, that's a great space saver for when you're doing your pieces. So here's an applique pressing sheet. It's a Teflon sheet that's kind of a non-stick sheet, and it's very handy for doing stuff like this. So because the glue it's kind of picky, you have to be kind of be careful with it, because if you iron it too much, you can actually ruin the glue. So if you iron it too much, the glue won't work anymore. So when you've got something like this to do, you do something called tacking. And what that is that you barely press it to the Teflon sheet. So here I'm going to just tack just the top of the post that's going to get overlapped by this, and I'm just going to do it for 2 seconds. So 1001, 1002. That's all I need. So now it's secure enough that I can put my next piece on there without it moving around, but I haven't ironed so much it ruins the glue. So now I get the house where I want it, and I'm going to do the same thing, just that spot, 1001, 1002. That's all you need. So now, I'm actually going to do that last. So now when you go to put the roof on there, you're going to do the same thing. You overlap it, get it where you want it, and actually what I should have done, let me tack this down. I'm going to tack down this edge right here. And then I can put this on here without it moving around on me. So I've got that where I want it. So now I'm going to tack that down. 1001, 1002. And when I'm putting that on there, I'm actually putting the edge of the iron, I'm not putting it flat down, just the edge of the iron, just protect that glue. And then same thing with the opening for the birdhouse. Tack that down for a couple seconds, and that's it. So now you've protected the glue so that it'll fuse to the background like it's supposed to. And what you want is you want it to cool off completely. So if you're in a hurry, you can pick this up and just do this to kind of cool it off. And then starting with the bottom layer, you're going to peel this up very slowly, carefully, and there you go. So now I can take this to my background and put this where I want to put it. So now it's all in one piece, and it just makes it a lot easier to secure it to the background. So that's how you do the layering. The applique pressing sheet is pretty awesome. That works really great. Hopefully you gain some tips for working with fusible applique. I used to be afraid of it. I love it now. It's one of my favorite things to do. Have a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye.